But what they also need to do is it's time to trade Brian Burns.
Hell no.
Hey, I thought it was all over.
Before we even get started, I got to give mad props to these two, Josh Norris and Hayden Winks. I almost said Weeks. Hayden Winks. Underdog Fantasy did a little bit of a breakdown of a bunch of different teams. This one happens to be on my Carolina Panthers, so we're going to see how they would fix them. Obviously, we have a new coach, we have a new GM. We're retaining our quarterback long term. We're most likely trading Adam Thielen. He was unhappy and thought that coming to the Carolina Panthers with Bryce Young would get him a Super Bowl in the first year, so that's a whole separate argument. But there's a lot of change. I want to know how you're going to fix it as an outsider, as somebody that's actually, as an outsider, like not directly in the organization, but as somebody that is super knowledgeable about the moves that they should be doing. So without further ado, we're going to give it over to them. But before I get exactly started, make sure you go follow them. Make sure you go follow Underdog. They have so many socials. You need to be following them. They are a must watch if you're a Carolina Panthers fan or involved in the NFL at all.
Oh, the state of this franchise. Let's reel it off. Pick 33, 65, 97, $34 million to spend. We know that the head coach, general manager jobs are definitely open. I think, Hayden, just reading between the lines, that they want.
Okay, it's open. Okay, this is old then. So we hired Dave Canales, Dan Morgan. We brought in Brad Idzik. We've brought in a bunch of people. In fact, if you want to know who Dave Canales is, I have an entire 9-part series on who the heck is Dave Canales, who is Brad Idzik, who is Brant Tillis. We got the money guy from the Kansas City Chiefs. So there's a lot in here. This looks like it's from right before then. So
want to keep Ejiro Evero as defensive coordinator. What is the one move the Carolina Panthers must make this offseason?
I think for the coaching staff, like you said, I do think that Evero should stay. And I think he
is. That's officially now. It is the day before Valentine's Day. So February 13th, 2024, Evero will remain the DC. So that's a W for us.
Coach like Todd Monken, our offensive-minded coach, try to help with Bryce Young is coming. But what they also need to do is it's time to trade Brian Burns.
Hell no. Okay. Immediately don't like this. But I'm entertaining it. I am on record as saying if the Carolina Panthers at any point, I don't care if he's 50 and we decide to trade him, whatever that year is, I'm no longer a Panthers fan. It'll only be for that year. I'm going to need some time to cool off. I don't care if it happens in week 1 or by that time, week 20, by the time they add on all these extra games and everything. Doesn't matter to me. Brian Burns needs to live and one day die in a Carolina Panthers jersey. He needs to never be allowed to play for another team. I don't care. Fire Burns. You need to stay with us forever. Now, with my piece out of the way, let's find out.
Technically a free agent. They have the franchise tag at the disposal. We've seen historically some of these big edge rushers get traded after being franchise tagged. We've seen it like 4 or 5 times, like the last 5 years. And most of the time it does come with edge rushers. Brian Burns does not seem like he loves being in Carolina. More importantly, though, this second season is so important for Bryce Young. You have to at least be able to evaluate him. And I would trade Brian Burns for a draft picks that they are missing right now. And you cannot find wide receivers in the free agency. Your best bet is finding someone like Adam Thielen, which only gets you so far. I would trade Brian Burns. Trust your defense coordinator, who's one of the better coordinators in the league. They have some other assets on defense, and you got to be able to evaluate Bryce Young. And I think the easiest way for them to do that is this 33rd overall pick. Hopefully a wide receiver falls to them.
Okay, that's an interesting one. I would love a wide receiver. Most people have been going with Troy Franklin. If we get him, that's great. T. Higgins has now been franchise tagged or going to be franchise tagged by the Bengals, so he's out. Brandon Ayuk apparently wants out, and people are now calling him elite. Y'all need to give over some of that, drugs that y'all smoking, because there's no way he's elite. He's really good. He's not elite. I'm sorry. There's like 5 elite wide receivers in the game right now. That's it. I don't care. I just don't see a rookie wide receiver that's not drafted in the top 5 or not named Marvin Harrison Jr. that's going to immediately change anything in Carolina. We need better wide receivers. But Jonathan Mingo did good. I'll give him that. Thielen does need to go. TMJ probably needs to go. I don't care what you do with LaVisca or Chark. Just get rid of them. I'm pretty sure Sharks contract was a 1 year or 2 year, whatever. So it's pretty much over. So it's just really weird that the wide receiver room needs to change. Obviously, with the hiring of Dave Canales, we're hoping and praying that Mike Evans will be like, hey, I want to stay with that coach and decide to come to Carolina. Obviously, I don't think the Bucs would ever let him do that, but that's something to be said. So I think there's opportunities for us down the road, but I just don't think a rookie wide receiver is going to fix it. There is one that I think we should grab with our third or fourth pick. I really don't care. And that's Brendan Rice, Jerry Rice's son. Sorry. I was thinking Rashee Rice for a moment, but it's not. It's Jerry Rice's son. If he's half of his father, he's going to be amazing. Let's bring him to Carolina. Don't let the Niners get him. And don't let that man turn into another Hall of Famer, or that family have another Hall of Famer. So that's just my opinion. I haven't done my wide receiver breakdown yet, but that's expected to come. If you guys need one now, though, shout out to Two Growls, One Roar. He's been doing a breakdown of a bunch of different ones. Leggett is going to be an interesting one. And I'm going to push him to do that Rice breakdown. So let's go.
But maybe you can get a first or a couple seconds for Brian Burns. I think this is the time to finally move on after turning down a lot of draft capital for him multiple seasons in a row.
You know what? I think trading Brian Burns now would really frustrate Carolina Panthers fans because, as you said, it was 2 first-round picks plus that the Los Angeles Rams offered for him back at the trade deadline a few years ago that Scott Fitterer turned down. And then the other part, and this might not be totally fair, I'll create a world where it is. They could have included Brian Burns in the deal last year instead of DJ Moore, and looking back on it.
Why would I trade a 25-year-old pass rusher, proven pass rusher at that? I understand this was a bad year, but this was a bad year for everybody. I don't want to hear a thing about Brian Burns until you acknowledge that Bryce Young, as a first-round pick rookie, threw 2,800 yards and 12 touchdowns, and y'all are telling me he's going to be great. Daniel Jones did better than that his rookie year. I'm sorry. I don't know. It's going to be a real interesting one. I just don't think Brian Burns is the guy to be traded. He's 25. He's proven at what he's doing. If we included him in that trade, then this would have been even worse. I mean, obviously losing DJ Moore is a bad one, but we did the breakdown. DJ Moore is happy being a Chicago Bear, and now he's about to get Caleb Williams, which hopefully saves him. I'm not going to be that person that's going to say Caleb Williams is going to be great. I don't think he's going to be great. I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be Justin Fields, and it's going to be a big, huge problem when you didn't go get Marvin Harrison Jr. and didn't retain Justin Fields. So
they absolutely should have done that. I mean, Brian Burns isn't, like, the easiest way of putting this, simplest way of putting this, Brian Burns isn't just going to walk away for nothing. Like, they either give him a long-term contract, franchise tag him, or tag and trade him. To me,
come on, man. Give me something positive here. Give me a reason why we should keep him.
What the Panthers need to change this offseason is turn awful positions into average ones. Okay? They played 8 right guards this year, 7 left guards. Brady Christensen, Austin Corbett returning from injuries could potentially help those interior spots. I still think Bradley Bozeman sucks at center, and we know that Icky regressed at left tackle. But the big spot to go from all.
Remember then, Nicky Bozeman posted something on Twitter about their future and stuff like that. So if we end up without a center and a right guard or a right tackle or something like that, you're going to have to spend that 33rd pick on alignment. It doesn't really matter what you do. Or we're going to go out there and fill them with somebody's, center number 2, and we're going to have more issues. Bryce Young needs to be elevated by others. He was at Alabama. He didn't go to Iowa State like a Brock Purdy and elevate the talent. He went to a team that was stacked at the time. Regardless, that I think Bryce Young can succeed. We can't ignore the fact that in college, he literally played for Nick Saban. Come on, man. Like, Nick Saban wasn't putting chumps out there. He's putting dogs. And right now, Carolina doesn't have very many of those. So,
awful to average is at wide receiver, and namely that speed and reliability on the perimeter. Like, I think people often jump a few steps in this when you're this bad of a roster status at those.
Well, if that's the case, you need to go to your boy telling us to trade Brian Burns. Trading a 25-year-old pass rusher is a way to jump ahead and think that you're doing something when you're not. You're hurting your defense, and you're taking Evero, who people want to get a head coaching position, and taking away arguably his best player. Regardless of that DB and Frankie Louvu are there, Burns is going to be a great player if given the chance. And if he ends up like Chase Young at like a 49ers or, God forbid, a Baltimore, when that man has 17 sacks, y'all remember this day.
Important spots where they're like, we've got to get the best. We've got to look for a franchise staple. I cannot tell you how big of a jump it is to go from literally league worst to just league average, because what that does is it gives you a chance on any given play rather than multiple spots giving you a chance to tank any given play. You know what I mean? And I think there were plenty of occasions this year when you watch the Panthers that it was a cycle, and rarely did you have the offensive line holding up appropriately to go along with the quarterback having a pocket and making the correct decision, to also on top of that having the wide receiver create separation and then the wide receiver catching the football all in the same play. And you watch other teams and then it happens frequently.
Yeah, looking at this, they were dead last in their 20-plus yard receptions.
Interesting. So I'm going to, dead last in big passes, dead last in defensive rushing estimated play average, I'm assuming. Play average, that'd be dead last. I mean, let's see, fourth down aggressiveness, we were up there. Injury luck, we were up there. Plays per game, we were up there. Pass rush win rate, 13. So our pass rush was winning. Interesting, but you want to trade him.
They were 29th in their deep target catch rate. So I'm right there with you. Why not trade Brian Burns for somebody like that? Maybe like the best free agent that will come available for wide receivers, like your Marquise Brown types. Like that would be an upgrade that we're talking about. You're not going to hit the home run unless you draft them, though. So that's the problem right now, sitting at 33rd overall. So I think it's just time to flip some of these defensive guys.
Yeah, but I don't agree with flipping defensive guys. But Puka Nacua was like a 5th round draft pick. Just had the most catches, most yards in a rookie season ever. So don't tell me that pick 33 isn't good enough to go get a wide receiver. Yes, it is going to be much more. We are hoping and praying for a lightning strike. But at the same time, we can go get somebody. I don't think that the way to do that is to get rid of Brian Burns of all people. If you're talking some other pieces, you want to get rid of J.C. Horn, you want to get rid of Dante Jackson, you want to get rid of some of these other pieces, I'm fine with that. Burns needs to be paid. Luvu needs to be paid. DB needs to be paid. I don't care what you pay him, to be honest. Put all their money on those 3 guys, and then just hope and get some other talent outside. I don't know. But a Carolina Panthers team without Brian Burns wouldn't have the 13th or whatever best win rate, pass rush win rate. So
guys over to find, hopefully, Bryce Young's new number 1 wide receiver.
And look, we have seen teams without spending a first-round selection on it create an explosive and good wide receiver room, a tight end room. I mean, you can look as far as the Green Bay Packers for that, right? But you have to have scheme to fit that in. You have to have good talent evaluation skills.
And that's the big one. You can say whatever you want, and I'm not going to go into the whole last year with the Carolina Panthers, but regardless of whatever scheme was out there, that team wasn't going to win. I'm sorry. The Carolina Panthers were the worst personnel group in football by a country mile. If you ignore that, that's a you problem, not a me problem, bro.
To fit that in, and it's stuff like T. Higgins is obviously, and we'll talk about this, going to hit free agency, but like the next name you mentioned, Hollywood Brown, we'll talk about that in a moment, but like Darnell Mooney is after that, or like Noah Brown is after that.
Gabe Davis, the dude that caught 5 touchdowns in one game and basically fell off the map. I don't care what you say. I have to say about Gabe Davis. I don't believe in him at all. T. Higgins is better than Gabe Davis on his best day. I don't care.
It gets so thin at wide receiver.
Hey, shout out. I'm actually going to let him finish his little spiel because I don't care who you are. You need to be following this man, Underdog, and everybody over there.
Thanks for watching. Before you go, be sure to check out the rest of the channel. You might find other clips that you'll enjoy. Hit that subscribe button too. Free agency, NFL draft are on the way. And don't worry, we've got you covered.
Shout out to Underdog. Okay, so obviously we're going to need to fix the offensive line. We need to get better at positions where we have issues. We need to figure out how we're going to spend our money properly because not having $80 million in cap severely limits us. We need to figure out the tight end wide receiver group, and we need to figure out what's going on with DB Frankie Luvu and, of course, Brian Burns. So the Carolina Panthers, Brant Tillis, Brad Itzik, Dave Canales, Dan Morgan, and Ejiro Evero. I'm sorry, I always butcher your name. Those are the people that have to solve this. And it's going to take more than one offseason. So people are going to have to be very patient. They're going to have to understand it's going to take time. And if Bryce comes out here next year and throws 22 touchdowns, it's going to be a massive win for so many people thinking that they've won it. Bryce might be the guy. He might not be the guy, but I'm really hoping he is. If you want to follow up with me, my name is Nick. This has been Roll Coverage. I appreciate you rolling with me. I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. I hope you followed Underdog. And everybody over there, my name is Nick. Peace.